As the kids are going, it is Christmas. Have you noticed anything different about the environment? Are the decorations up? I would like to thank a young lady by the name of Barbara Blevins-Deckish. Y'all know her? Did y'all like what she did? Did a good job. Got it all decorated for us. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoy seeing the lights and the trees and the nativity set. It's really kind of neat. Kind of reminds us of the season and what's going on. And another thing about Christmas, it's not just the decorations. It's not just the special event, the story of Jesus. It's Christmas movies. Who has movies that you watch? All right. Then you know what this movie is. Ta-da. There it is. All right, go into the next picture. What's the name of this movie? It's a Wonderful Life. Who has already watched it one time this season? All right, this season. So we'll watch this several times, okay? And I'm going to talk about it. But somebody mentioned as I was preparing for this some interesting facts about It's a Wonderful Life. Did you know, and I didn't until a few minutes ago, that It's a Wonderful Life was filmed heat wave in the summer of 1946. Did you know that? This isn't real snow. It's cornflakes painted white. Look it up. That's amazing, isn't it? Because it looks so real. And in fact, I think they won some kind of award for special effects because they made it look so real. Because watching it, you would never guess that it's the summer of 1946, the middle of a heat wave. But they said if you look closely at his face, a lot of times you can see him sweating. He has sweat in the middle of the winter. So that gives you an idea. So that's kind of some interesting facts about the movie. But let's go back into the movie, though, into the script, into the story of the movie and talk about it. Of course, this is George Bailey. And he's standing on the bridge because he is contemplating jumping off, suicide, because he is in a difficult situation. He owes $8,000, which doesn't sound like much today, but in today's money, it's $100,000 because somebody, Mr. Potter has stolen it, and he's the head of the savings and loan, and so he's responsible. And there's a warrant out for his arrest, and there's no way that he can pay it back. He sees no hope, no way out, no solution to the problem. He has a life insurance policy, and so the only thing he can think of is, I don't want to live like this, is to jump off the bridge. But as you know the story, that's where Clarence shows up. And what does Clarence do? He jumps in. Then George jumps in and saves him. But it's interesting that the movie portrays this moment of hopelessness in order for us to kind of identify with the hopelessness even in the Christmas season. Because during any holiday, Christmas included, the suicide rate goes up. There's a lot of people who feel hopeless and helpless because as they look around, there are so many happy people, they think, what's wrong with me in my life? And it's a difficult time for a lot of people because they feel so hopeless. A study came out just this week, and I was interested in it because as I was getting ready for this, how it applies. And it says this: something unusual happened between 2016 and 2017. Think about the movie. Something interesting happened in our nation between 2016 and 2017. And that the life expectancy, you know what the life expectancy, how long a person who lives in America is expected to live, went down rather than going up. Because we think that as modern medicines, medical techniques, advances in all the new technology we have, that our life expectancy should go up, but it's not. It's going down. Our life expectancy of a person in America dropped from 2016 to 2017. And the reason are two specific categories of the top 10 reasons for death in America are increases in these two categories is the whole reason that life expectancy dropped. You know, we think of cancer and heart disease and the other causes of death. But there are two categories that death is increasing, not decreasing in America. Can you guess what those are? Overdose and suicide. Drug overdose and suicide are increasing in America. From 2016 to 2017, the suicide rate increased 3.7%. Doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot of people when you consider how many people are in America. And overdose deaths reached a new high in 2017. How many do you think that it was in 2017? Overdose deaths. What would you guess? What's the number? Not quite. 70,000. Still a lot of people. Still a lot of people. But the reason I want to bring that up to you is this. Both of those categories, overdose and suicide, deal with people who are hopeless. Deal with people who feel like they don't have a future. Deal with people that are struggling with issues that are bigger, they feel like, than they are, and that there's no way out for them. That they feel like they are in a hopeless, helpless situation and there's no way out. That's the feeling they have. But is that true? Is there a way out? Is there a solution to George Bailey's dilemma that he's in? Absolutely. And that's what we're going to look at today. So if you have your Bibles, we're going to look at a story out of Luke. The Christmas story is found in two Gospels. Which two? Matthew and Luke. Okay? Matthew and Luke give us details about Jesus' birth. And so Luke takes a certain view and Matthew takes a certain view, but Luke is the only one that tells us this particular story. And so, very interesting story. That's what we're going to use. Luke, the first chapter, verse 5. In the time of Herod the king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. Now, the priests were divided up into divisions or groups. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of priests, so they divided them up into groups. Then each group was responsible at a particular time to perform their duties, and we'll talk about that. His wife, Elizabeth, was also a descendant of Aaron. When a priest married someone, they can marry any Jewish woman they wanted to, but it was particularly righteous and good if they also married a woman from the priestly lineage of Aaron. So far, it's a perfect life. He's a priest. He marries the right woman. She's from the priestly line, Elizabeth. Great life, right? A life you'd be envious of. He's a priest. He marries a woman, the perfect girl. Everything looks good. Both of them were upright in the sight of God, observing all the commandments and regulations blamelessly. Sounds pretty good. They got a great life. Married the right woman. They're both upright and good. They're following the commands. They're doing what they're supposed to do. You know, they post on Facebook all the great places and people they've seen, and you're envious of them because why do they get to do that in their life and you don't have this in your life? And it looks great from the outside. How many of you know that in every person's life, everything is not always as good as it appears? Do you know that? Do you know that sometimes when you look at with envy at someone else's life, you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes of their life? That no one's life is perfect. No one's life is what they particularly want it to be. All of us struggle with problems. And so at first, everything looks good. Then Luke uses a conjunction, a little conjunction that changes our perspective completely. What is that conjunction? But. We talked last week about but, didn't we? It changes it completely. But they had no children because Elizabeth was barren and they were well along in years. Why is this such a big but? Because in that culture, children were seen as a blessing from God. Unlike today sometimes. They're a blessing? Are you kidding me? They are. Children were seen as a blessing from God. And when a couple didn't have children, it was seen as God's judgment on them, punishment. There's a reason why. And it was disgraceful because, as you know, they're going to have a son. And Elizabeth will say, God has now taken away my what? Disgrace. When she has a son. And so the fact that they do not have children kind of balances out all those good things. And so they feel under disgrace. They feel like they are not as good as everyone else. They feel like, what have we done wrong? We're under judgment. Why don't we have children? Why are we not blessed? Everybody else has kids, 5, 6, 10 dozen kids. We don't have any. Couldn't God at least give us one? And so they feel very lost, disgraced, barren because they have no children. But, I used a conjunction, didn't I? But, did that change how they treated God or their service to God or their view of God? No. They still served him righteously, even though their life had been a disappointment. The reason I say that is this. A lot of times, when things don't go the way we wish them to or want them to or feel like they should go, we blame God or we blame somebody else. And we think that then justifies us not doing the right thing and doing something wrong. Well, if God's not going to answer my prayer, if he's not going to do this for me, then I'm not going to serve him. I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to be righteous. I'm not going to do what's right. If he can't do right by me, I'm not going to do right by him. And so sometimes we think that if we don't get what we want, God doesn't treat us like we should, God doesn't answer our prayer, that justifies us doing the wrong thing. Have you heard about that before? Have you ever felt that in your life? I'm justified doing this because God hasn't treated me right, then I don't have to treat him right. I don't have to serve him. I don't have to do what I'm supposed to do because God hasn't done what he's supposed to do. You may have never felt that, but I know people who have felt that and have felt that way. Does the circumstances, the situations, the tragedies, the difficult parts of life justify us not doing right by God? Does it? Do I have a right not to do the right thing because I feel like God hasn't done the right thing by me? And a good example of that is Job. All of us know the bad, terrible things that happened to Job. Lost everything. Lost everything, including his kids. And yet at the end of that, Job says these words that I have to repeat to myself many times. When I feel like I've been unjustly wronged, or God hasn't been right by me, or I feel like I can do this because God didn't do it. When I get those wrong feelings coming up, I remember what Job said. Job said, after all this happened to him, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Yet will I hope in him. Yet will I serve him. Though he slay me, that doesn't matter. I'm going to still hope and trust in God. It doesn't matter. What happens in life, tragedies, difficulties, it's not going to change how I view God. And that's what happened to Zachariah and Elizabeth. Whatever had happened, they were still upright. They were still upright, righteous before God. Once, when Zachariah's division was on duty, and he was serving as a priest before God, he was chosen by lot. What does by lot mean? You know, they put your name in a hat, draw one out, okay? Chosen by lot to serve in the temple and burn the incense. Now, a priest, because there were thousands of priests, could only hope to do this once in his lifetime. And he may not even get to do it once. So the fact that he is getting to do the priestly duties is a big deal. He was chosen. That is it's a very great honor to be able to go into the Holy of Holies, to burn the incense, to offer the sacrifice, because in his life, a lot of the priests would not even get to do that. But he was chosen just accidentally, just by chance, just, haphazardly, just a coincidence. He was chosen by lot, just pull his name out of the hat on this particular day to be the one to go into the Holy of Holies. He would never get to do this again. He'd never done it before in his life. The only time in his life he would ever do this, okay? Because there were so many priests, very few got to actually perform the priestly duties. When the time for the burning of the incense came, the assembled worshipers were praying outside. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him. Now think about that. He's in the Holy of Holies. He's kind of afraid anyway. It's kind of a dark place. He's kind of nervous about it anyway. And then all of a sudden, there's this flash, this bright light, and there is an angel back there with him. Would you be afraid? Absolutely. He is scared to death. An angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was startled and gripped with fear. When it says gripped with fear, what does that mean? What does it mean to be gripped? Frozen. You can't move. Have you ever been so afraid that you just could not move? Your nerves just kind of block off and you can't move. You can't say, you can't shout, you can't do anything. You're just frozen. He was gripped with fear. He was so afraid. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah." It's easy for you to say, angel. Your prayer has been heard. Now that's interesting, that God would send an angel to tell him your prayer has been heard. Now, let me put you in a situation. You're at home somewhere, you're out in the woods, back in the back room doing something. An angel appears to you. And the angel says, your prayer has been heard. What comes to your mind? What are you thinking? What prayer has God heard? What prayer has God heard of yours? What would it be? For all of us, it'd be different. What prayer? Because your prayer shows what you desire, right? What are you praying for? You're praying for what you want, what you desire, what you need. Maybe out of desperation, maybe out of need, maybe out of want. I don't know. But you're praying for something. Well, at least I hope you're praying for something. Right? I hope that you are praying for something. If you're not, I can give you a few things that I could ask you to pray for me if you're not praying for something. Oh, and by the way, we've got a prayer service here on Wednesday night that you may enjoy if you want to be praying for something. We're praying together for some things. But what is it that you're praying for? What do you want? What do you desire? What is your need? So, let's take Zechariah and Elizabeth back. When the angel says that to them, what do you think the angel is talking about? Knowing their life. What do you think? What would be your prayer in their situation? What do you think the angel's talking about? Wild guess. Huh? What's that? A baby. Elizabeth is barren, remember? They've not had a child. Desperate need in their life. They're old, though, now. Do you think they're still praying about that, or have they given up? Do you think that they quit praying about that a long time ago when they turned 50, 60, whatever age they are, that they kind of gave up on that, and it's not going to happen? You know, we're old now. It's really past our time. We there's no way. Just kind of give up. Do you think they had given up praying? Do you ever give up praying? Do you ever think it's too late? Past time? It's not going to happen? You ever give up praying? I think if they had continued praying, it was just by rote. I think they had given up. And the reason I said it because what Zechariah is going to say in a few minutes, that they had actually given up on that. Now look at what he says. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son. You are to give him the name John. He will be a joy and delight to you. Many will rejoice because of his birth, for he'll be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from birth. Many of the people of Israel will he bring back to the Lord their God, and he'll go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man. My wife is well along in years. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How do I know it's, you don't understand the situation I'm in. I might have prayed that 20 or 30, 40 years ago, but not now, because it's impossible. I'm old. My wife is old. That can't happen. The angel said, I'm Gabriel. A few times the angel identifies himself, particularly in the announcement stories about Jesus is when we learn the names of angels. I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. I have been sent to speak to you and to tell you this good news. And now you'll be silent, not able to speak until the day it happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their proper time. You didn't believe it, so you won't be able to say anything until it happens. And so what I want to point out to you is this, a couple of things. Is God answering Zechariah's prayer? Yes, a prayer that he and Elizabeth had prayed for years and had given up on. God says, I'm answering your prayer. Is that the only prayer that he is answering? Or is there another one? Kind of quiet, aren't you? There is another one. Because as a good Jewish man, as a priest, he is praying for the coming of the Messiah. He is praying for hope. Because not only are they in desperate need because they have no children personally, but the nation of Israel is in desperate need because they are occupied by the Romans and the Messiah hasn't come. And so as a good Jewish priest, he is also praying for the Messiah. Because not only has Zechariah and Elizabeth been waiting a long time to have a child, the nation, the people of Israel, have been waiting a long time for the Messiah. Now grab this. This is very important part of what we're saying today. It has been 400 years since anyone has heard from God in Israel. How long has it been? Is that a long time? You go back 400 years in our nation, and that's what year? Is that 1618? What were you doing in 1618? See, that kind of gives you a clue to how long. 400 years is a long time. There had not been a prophet, not been an angel, not been a king or priest. No one had heard from God in Israel for 400 years. Generation after generation after generation after generation, nothing. If you were a Jewish person, would you have given up that the Messiah is going to come and rescue you? Would you have given up that God really cares about Israel? Would you have thought all those stories that our ancestors told about God did this and he pulled back the sea and we went through on dry land and he rescued us? All those stories must be fables because we've not seen it or experienced it. My grandparents didn't, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents didn't. 400 years, no one has heard anything from God. And now, all of a sudden, Zechariah, a priest in the Holy of Holies, an angel appears to him and says, you're going to have a baby. And not only you're going to have a baby, but this baby is special. It is the beginning of God's plan of salvation that he is going to execute right now. This is the time that God has chosen to bring the Messiah, the Christ, and John the Baptist, who he's talking about, will go before Jesus to prepare the way. Now, why is this happening? Why is John first? Why is the angel announcing this to Zechariah and Elizabeth? Why is he saying this? Because the very last thing that is written in the Old Testament that a prophet hears from God before those 400 years, Malachi, the very last book in the Old Testament, 4th chapter, verse 5. See, I will send you my prophet Elijah. Now, the angel said he'll go before him in the spirit of who? Elijah. Before the great and dreadful day the Lord comes, he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children. Is that what the angel said? Yes. And the hearts of the children to the fathers. In other words, he's going to bring reconciliation to all people. He's going to heal all people. He can bring reconciliation and peace to the world. the very last thing that Malachi writes in the very last book of the prophecy of prophets, and then the very first thing that the angel says 400 years later, tie together. Do you see that? It ties together. And so now God has spoken. Malachi says Elijah's going to come. He's going to bring reconciliation. The angel Gabriel, 400 years later, Elijah's coming. His name is going to be John. He's going to bring reconciliation. God has spoken. It has happened. God is on the move now. Let's go back to Isaiah 9 for a moment. Verse 2. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. What's it saying? People who have no hope. People who are walking in darkness. People who have no reason to go on living. Now there is a light. There is a way through. There is hope. There is hope because Christ has come. What is hope? What is hope? Hope is a reason to keep going. Hope is an expectation of something coming in the future. Hope is what allows us to keep going one day until the next, to put one foot in front of the other, because we believe that it will get better, that there is something else in the future, and it will not always be like this. Hope is something that we look forward to, not something that we have. And without hope, there's no reason to live. Why do so many people decide that their life is not worth living? Why do so many people feel like that I have to somehow put something into my body in order for me to keep living and become addicted? Why do people do that? Because they feel like life as it is not worth living. Life as it is too painful. Life as it is stinks. Life as it is hurts. And I want to end this pain. I want to end this life. I want to end this existence because I see no way out. You know what I'm saying? I don't see any future. I don't see anything changing. I don't see any way out. Therefore, I'm going to end it all. That's no hope. But what Jesus says is there is hope. Romans the 8th chapter, verse 18. I consider our present sufferings not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Now, in this, Paul uses two tenses of time. He uses the present tense. Our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that what? Will be. When is will be? Future. That there is a future coming that is better than the present. That there is something that we can look forward to that will more than compensate for what you are enduring now. When I was growing up, we raised chickens, and some of y'all raised chickens, and you know what chicken house is like. And I remember standing at the end of the chicken house, 40 feet wide, Chance, 300 feet long, you know what I'm talking about. Chicken litter 3 feet deep. And I'm standing there with a shovel in my hand, a scoop, that I have to scoop out every square inch of that litter out of the chicken house. I think my life is over. There's no hope. This will take me forever. I'll be an old man before I get through. And Mother comes over there and she says, hey, when we get through cleaning out the chicken house, we're going to Gatlinburg. We're going on vacation. When we get this done, then we get to travel. We get to spend the night in the Smoky Mountains. We're going to camp out. I'm going to cook breakfast. We'll go hiking. She gives us something to what? Look forward to. Past this dreadful experience of cleaning out the chicken house. And that's what hope is. If you have something to look forward to live for, to anticipate, you can endure about anything right now if there's something to look forward to. There are two things that kill hope. First of all is time. Time kills hope. Because the longer we wait, the more discouraged we become. Zachariah and Elizabeth had waited years and years and years and years, and they're thinking it's too late. When Jesus came up at Lazarus' funeral, came out, it's been 4 days, he stinks, it's too late. Abraham and Sarah, God says, you're going to have a son that's going to be an inheritance. Abraham says, my wife is old, I'm old, it's too late. It's been 400 years since Israel has heard anything from God. It's too late. Is God ever too late? No. It's not in our schedule. It's not in our timetable. It's not when we think it should happen. But God always comes at the right time. Even though sometimes it seems like it's too late. God's never too late. So, if that's true, then we should never give up praying because of time. Well, I've prayed for this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I've been praying for this. God must not heard my prayer. God must not going to be doing anything about this. It's been years and years and years. Does the time that a prayer has been prayed decrease its effectiveness before God? No, it doesn't. There is something that I've been praying for how long has it been now? 25, 26 years. I've been praying this prayer. Have I got discouraged? Yes. Have I give up at times? Yes. But it keeps coming back. Keep praying. Don't give up. Keep praying. Don't keep praying. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Because time has nothing to do with the effectiveness of your prayer. Time will make you discouraged. Time will make you give up hope. But it has nothing to do with what God's going to do. So don't ever give up because time has passed. Always know that God acts on time. It's Friday. Jesus is dead. There is no hope. Like the ones on the road to Emmaus says, we had hoped that he was going to be the Messiah, but now he's dead. He's been buried. The Romans have killed him. There's nothing we can do. We had hoped he was the one, but now it's too late. He's been dead now for 3 days. It's over. What they didn't realize, it wasn't the end. It was just what? The beginning. When the thief that was on the cross beside Jesus looked over at him and says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Did Jesus say, oh, it's too late? You know, if you had done this earlier where you could have gone through the process and maybe earned a little bit of righteousness, you might have made it, but now, I'm sorry, it's too late for you. You're about to die in 5 minutes. Is that what he said? No. What did he say? Today, you will be with me in paradise. It's not too late for you. It's never too late in God's economy. So don't give up. Don't get discouraged when time passes. It's never too late with God. Second thing that discourages us is this. It's our circumstances. When our circumstances seem like it's over. George Bailey, he owes the equivalent of $100,000. No place to get it. What's going to change that? Nothing. There's no hope. Lazarus is dead in the tomb. What's going to change that? Nothing. There's no hope. Jesus is dead in the tomb. What's going to change that? Nothing. There's no hope. Zachary and Elizabeth, we're old. What's going to change that? Nothing. There's no hope. They could not even imagine anything that could change their situation. But God can do things that we can't even imagine. God can do things that we think are impossible. So at the moment that you think it's over, the whistle is blown, the fat lady has sang, the lights have been turned out, it may not be over in God's eyes. God can still work despite circumstances that seem to indicate that the situation is over. God still works. Lazarus was raised from the dead. Jesus came back to life. He was resurrected. Abraham and Sarah had a baby. Zachariah and Elizabeth had a baby. They couldn't even imagine that at their time. They never even heard of that. Yet God did that. So even in your situation, when circumstances seem to be so against anything, never give up on God. God can do things that we cannot even imagine. Do you know what motivated the first believers who spread the word and spread it all over the world? What motivated them to go out and tell other people about Jesus? Do you know what their motivation was? What was their motivation? What was it that they went out and told people? What was it that they went out and they were excited about? Hey, we're going to have a meeting next Sunday morning. You come over and sit with us in our meeting. No. Hey, I've got this new religion and it's really neat, and come over and join my religion. No. What is it that was good news that inspired them, encouraged them, motivated them to go out and tell people? I've seen Jesus. He's alive. He was dead and I've seen him. He's alive. He's resurrected. There was something exciting and thrilling. It was something nobody ever unheard of. It was a miracle that Jesus is alive and I have seen him with my own eyes. There is hope. There is a reason to believe. There is a future. Jesus, speaking through Paul, says, "Oh, death, where's your sting?" The sting of death is sin. Sin is a law. It's over with. Jesus has defeated sin. He's defeated death. He's defeated sickness, disease. It is over. Jesus has won. That's why he tells us the end of the story. We know what's going to happen. We know who wins. We win. We win. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'll come again and receive you myself, that where I am, there you may be also. We have something to look forward to. There is hope. There's a reason to get up in the morning. There's a reason to keep going. There's a reason to go through the difficulties, the problems, the tribulations, the sickness, the hardship of life. There's a reason to live because Jesus is resurrected and we will be resurrected and we have eternity and nothing can take that away from us. What shall separate us from the love of God? Shall persecution, shall hardship, shall nakedness, famine, or the sword? No, it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. Knowing all these things we're more than conquerors, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither present nor the future, nor powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. That's too weak. That's too weak. I thank you. There's a reason to hope. There's a reason to live. There's a reason to smile. There's a reason to keep going. We have hope. Problem is this, guys, and I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes we act like we don't have hope. Oh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me at work the other day. Oh, it's so terrible. You wouldn't believe what this person did to me. You know, I'm so disenfranchised. I'm so hurt. I'm so offended. I'm whatever it is. And we give the impression that these circumstances and situations of life decrease our hope and our joy. We give off the impression that somehow life defeats the resurrection and we are defeated by some temporary thing that's happened to us. When really we should rejoice that no matter what happens, we have hope. Because if anyone has the right to have hope, we have the right to have hope. Amen? So why do we live like we have no hope? Why do we act like we have no hope? Why do we talk like we have no hope? When we have hope. And the reason this is important is there's a world out there that doesn't have hope. They don't have any hope. They've got no reason to believe that life can be better. And they need the hope that we have. They need the reason to live that we have. And so we need to live in a positive way. We need to be optimists. We need to be excited about what Jesus has done for us. We need to give off hope and healing and reconciliation to the world that is in darkness. Go back to Isaiah 9. Now remember, this was written before Jesus was born, thousands of years. People walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the shadow of death, a light has dawned. You've enlarged the nation. You've increased our joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as men rejoice while dividing the plunder. For in the day of Midian's defeat, you shattered the yoke that burdens them, a bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressors. Can Jesus break the yoke of addiction and oppression that people live in? Yes. Can Jesus break the yoke of the oppressor in their life? Yes, he can. There is hope. Every warrior's boot used in battle, every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. Can Jesus heal and reconcile enmity and arguments and anger? Can Jesus heal relationships? Yes. What he's talking about, the war will be over. Wars will be over. Because Jesus can heal. Jesus can reconcile. Jesus can make peace. Why is all this true? For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given. The government will be on his shoulders, and he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne over his kingdom, establishing it, upholding with justice and righteousness. From this time on, for how long? Forever. Forever. And the zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. It won't end. So there is a reason to hope. And it's not because of the circumstances you're in. And it's not because everything's going to turn out okay. And it's not because my life is going to be wonderful and beautiful and everything's going to be like I want it. That's not the reason. We hope in Christ because He has prepared an eternity for us that is well worth anything we go through in this life. You'll have problems in this life. It will be difficult. It will be hard. There will be death, disease, tragedy, heartache in this life. Yes. But our hope is not in this life. Paul says, if only in this life we have hope in Christ, we are of all men to be pitied. See, our hope is in eternity. Our hope is what the resurrection of Jesus means for us. Resurrection of Jesus means for me is that I will be resurrected. Resurrection for Jesus means for me that death will not hold me, that there is something beyond this. That's what our hope is in. That's what we proclaim. That's when we get up in the morning. That's when we can smile. That's when we are not drawn into the hopelessness of the world around us because we have a reason to hope. Amen? Amen. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for what you have given us in Jesus Christ, that we have hope to believe. We have hope to go on, God. And despite what is happening around us, God, we have hope. God, there's a world out there that is drowning in addiction. It's drowning in hopelessness. That people are feeling like life is not worth living. And God, maybe some of us have felt that way at times. Why should I go on? And we've been discouraged because of the passing of time, or we've been discouraged because of our circumstances that seem so helpless. We want to give up. I pray that today, Father, that you would speak to our hearts. That, God, you would give us hope again in healing. Well, let's just go ahead and come forward.